Monday Night Catchers on the hot stove post Thanksgiving. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here bringing you baseball along with Jeff the Dog Healy. We got the salmon jacket. You know why, dog? Because we are making deals tonight. Just like they're making deals. They're getting ready to make these deals. I can't wait for the first catcher to fall. Will it be Realmuto? Will it be somebody else going off the board, jumping in there? I don't know, but we're gonna figure it out tonight as we talk to you. Monday Night Live Hot Stove post Thanksgiving. Oh, I'm fat, dog. I'm fat. I gained so much weight. Anyway, we would like you to subscribe to the podcast right here if you're watching live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, Periscope, whatever it is, you're watching us. So you gotta get out the salmon jacket every now and then. I think maybe I have to switch to it. So we want you to check it out here on the live stream or the replays. But you could pull what we call an Uncle Paul, which is sometimes, it's 9:22 Eastern on a Monday night, and you're not popping into the live stream. But you hear a little bit here, you hear a little bit there, and then you want to go back on your power walk the next couple of days and listen back to it. So that's when you subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, whatever, wherever you listen to your podcast, and then you pop in your AirPods, you go on your power walk, or you hit the treadmill, or you hit the boxing bag, whatever you do, and you check this out. So you can follow the show on all these platforms at Diamond Diehards. That's what you're looking for. Twitter, even Instagram, Twitch TV, Facebook.com. That's where we are pretty much everywhere. The YouTube you got to search for a little bit, but you could find it in the links from the other stuff. And mainly, if you're a member of the Facebook page or the Facebook group, you'll be able to find it there. You can follow the dog on Twitter at Jeff Healy8. That's the number 8. And you can follow me, Joe Rizzo, at Rear Naked Choke, all one word. We do want to bring you some great news, and that's from our pals at FMS Graphics. They want to remind you. Now, I should take my copy and I should slide it to somewhere where it can look like I'm looking at you and telling this, but I didn't memorize it. So, FMS Graphics wants to remind you that it's the perfect time to order holiday cards. Why not take a few minutes and visit them at www.fmsgraphics.com. Ordering is easy, and you receive your first order within a few days, which is important because now we're past Thanksgiving, but these guys will get it to you, your holiday cards, in time for you to turn around and send them out. FMS Graphics is the place to visit for all your printing and promotional product needs. So if you happen to be listening to this after the holiday season, then you could still go to fmsgraphics.com and do your business there. Our other says so. That's congratulations to us, by the way, our first sponsors, and thank you to FMS Graphics. Ooh yeah. We will now bring in, as we always do, the dog as we embark on the veteran of the day for a Monday, November 30th at night in the East. Dog?
All right, thanks, Riz. This is a fun one that we had here. Speaking of McCann, as we're going to be talking McCann later on, did a little research and came across this individual. His name is Bill McCann. He is a Vietnam War veteran, and he took a veterans lunch at a VA hospital, VA cafeteria one day, and wound up being inspired to start a charity. He gave the veteran a $50 gift card to buy groceries at lunch, and then the veteran grabbed his hand and began to cry. And at that point, this guy decided he would start a charitable organization called Vittles for Vets. Was born. So again, Bill McCann, a Vietnam War veteran, created Vittles for Vets to fight veteran hunger. His charity provides $50 grocery gift cards to veterans in need, staffed by volunteers including his wife, World War II veteran father-in-law, and others. And notably, McCann earned the 2019 Red Cross Military Hero Award as a result of his work with Vittles for Veterans. So thank you for your work helping vets, and thank you for your service as well, Bill McCann. I'll put a little link in there to the charity, and hope folks can go out and reach out and give him a hand.
All right. Dog kicking it off as always, as usual, with a wonderful veteran of the day. And he picked someone named McCann by design.
Oh,
Why?
little homework for once.
Oh, wow, because we were doing a little link sharing today, the dog and I were.
Well,
And
thinking, thinking.
there's a really cool thing that you could do on baseballreference.com. I actually like didn't really know you could do this, and I'm like, I want to see JT Realmuto and James McCann compared kind of side by side from like a baseball reference perspective. And so I googled baseball reference like player comparison or side by side. And there's a link from like 2013 that tells you how you could screw with the URL, and like you got to kind of figure out the player name and whatever. So you got to, you got to fudge around with it a little bit. But then boom, it puts like Real Muto on the top and McCann on the bottom. Now, we're not far enough along in this thing where we're going to share our screen or show anybody else's website. You're just going to have to look at our semi-ugly mugs. Well, or I don't know. Dog supposedly is the eye candy. Distinguished gentleman. Me, you can't see how you can't.
Little rough post
You
Thanksgiving.
can't see that like you can't see my Garrett Cole hair. It doesn't come over quite as well with the background over here. But you do have the 93rd reference to the salmon jacket. So we'll just keep talking about that. Anyway, so the domino has yet to fall. We were talking about it, and this show, because we're both like New York, New Jersey area guys, and Dog's a Met fan, and I'm a Yankee fan, and I swear we've done like for a Yankee fan, I probably know more about the Mets than every Met fan, because that seems like we always talk about the Mets. Why are we talking about the Mets? Well, because they're the center of the whole thing right now.
Need and money put
so,
together.
So everything you hear, right? Everything you hear is that all these players and their agents are waiting for the Mets to make that first move, and once that first domino falls, whatever it is, then the free agency market will start flowing. But you know what, Dog? I was thinking, that's not always the way it happens, because sometimes a team, not out of impatience, but out of strategy sometimes, we see a team say, you know what, screw it. I'm going in, and there's a guy that I want, and he's not necessarily the top guy. So I'm not risking so much about setting the market or screwing myself in the market and bidding against myself. There's a guy that I like. I'm willing to pay a little more to get him, and I'm going to get him, and then sort of like, make the Mets stumble a little bit, right? Like catch him off guard and say, wait a minute, now this guy's off the market. Now, whoa, there's a rush, and like that, there could be that little bit of strategery. And to me, that team that's they're sort of lying in the weeds and they're sort of not. To me, it's the Nationals, because I hear like you just hear, oh, they're interested in Chris Bryant, and they're talking maybe about this guy and whatever. But you know what? They got the mulligan season coming off their World Series win, right? They win 4 games in Houston. They take in an improbable path to the World Series, starting 19-31, raising the trophy, and then Scherzer's not Scherzer last year. Strasburg gets banged up. They just put him on the sidelines, and everybody's like, you know what? Nobody's going to the games anyway. We'll come back in 2021. It's like we're still world champs. It's like no. It's like for them, 2020 never happened. For the Dodgers, it's like the be all and end all, right? It's just perspective from where you look at it. But to me now, the Nationals are the team that are lying in the weeds. They let Rendon go to the Angels. So, there's talk that they're going to be in on Bryant, right? He's like probably a similar type player, a little younger. The term is for like another year or two, or, so that's fine. But I just have this sense that they might come in and they might steal one of these guys, and that would make a lot of sense, right? In terms of them trying to like, throw a quick jab in there that kind of stumbles the Mets, and all of a sudden, it's on like Donkey Kong, dog. So I know we're going to start really with the catchers, and I sort of started with the Nationals here. Maybe it's just my turkey hangover, like I'm not following the rundown, but I do have Realmuto and McCann in front of me. I just figured I'd throw that out there in like the stream of consciousness because I feel like it was like just touching the surface. I know you and I are
Yeah, I mean
sharing materials here.
that's an interesting one, right? I mean, if you're the Nationals, like this is win now time, right? Whereas Cohen is talking about building the organization for years and years and years to compete. Alderson said they're not a player away. They need multiple players to kind of get there. Yeah, maybe it's a little expectation setting or whatnot. I don't think they would be happy getting in a player and a half and sort of just being close. I mean, I think they want to be beyond that. Clearly, they were there 2 years ago. Even this past year, they were actually close until the last week and they fell apart. So, but if you're the Nationals, I mean, this is a win now time for them, right? I mean, you would argue the same with the Phillies. It just doesn't quite seem like that's going to happen for the Phillies right now. And then you have an upsurging Braves team. Maybe a peg behind that, maybe an upsurging Marlins team. So I mean, from the perspective of trying to compete within the division, yeah, if you're going to win, you gotta bring all your guns. I mean, pretty much everybody is has a good case for why they're going to be competitive and a force to reckon with within that division.
You actually made a good point about the Braves. So they've gone out and they signed a couple of guys, right? They signed Charlie Morton. It's a 1 year deal, 15 million. You were surprised
Bucks.
that
That was a big number.
I'm not like that. That's like in the Riz mode right there. I'll give you 5 million more for one less year. Like I'll take that guy. I mean, for you only have to pay him for a year. I mean, he's got a
Yeah.
great track record, especially the last few years. He's a really great playoff pitcher. This is a team that was, a few wins from going to the World Series this past year, and the Braves are doing well to stock up on these like 1 year guys, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in
I think it
this
was good as a little surprised at the number, but again, if you like you're saying, right, if you got to pay up early to get your guy, and you don't want to get into, well, now Bauer is 30 and next guy down is 28, and all of a sudden you start running down and like everyone turns into a 20. If you say, you know what, the guy's probably worth 12, I'll pay him 15 to take away hey, all the salaries are going to be way up, and take that uncertainty off. That I don't get myself into a bidding war that I can't compete in.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're signing him for the playoffs, right? Like, whatever happens in the regular season happens, but we'll both, and probably everybody listening and watching, would be surprised if the Braves weren't there making the playoffs at the end of the 2021 season, regardless of what the rules are, right? And regardless of what the numbers are. Like, that's a good signing. To me, actually, I thought it was a great signing. I mean,
Yeah.
he's even a guy that I would have been willing to take on for, 2, possibly 3 years at, and that term is
I
phenomenal.
thought he actually made sense on either one of the New York teams too.
Yeah, I mean, but
I would have said number 4, number 5. He's a perfect kind of guy like
to
that.
get him for a year, I mean, that's really good. And I guess to some degree he's banking on himself. But we also have the uncertainty of economics right now, right? I think we
Yeah.
see it maybe uh, a little more closely in what they're talking about in hockey and basketball because they're heading into their seasons much sooner. Football is still playing their first season in it, so we haven't seen what the football effect will be of, not having fans in stands and, collective bargaining agreements and, dollars that are coming or not coming from TV networks, local and national, radio networks, I mean, like, there's all kinds of stuff and revenue streams that are involved there. And eventually, like, you figure these guys are going to take some kind of not a pay cut, but a pay hit, right? The guys who are signed are signed. They're going to be getting that money. But, a guy like Morton for 1 year last year, if he was just going to go for 1 year, I mean, he might have gotten 18 million, but maybe this year he just gets 15 million. Now, if the vaccine comes through, and by the way, the first plane from the state of what, dog? New Jersey. That's right. You did say it. The first
Pharma capital of the world.
yeah, the first plane with vaccines took off I believe it was with the Pfizer vaccine, took off and started distribution, globally today. So this was a really big day. And, the reports that you hear are that by June, anybody who wants a vaccine will be able to get it, which means a lot of people who need the vaccine in the meantime will be getting it, which also means that, June is not that far into a baseball season, right?
Hmm.
It's a couple of months in. So it's starting to bode well, despite what what we're looking at every day now when we turn on the news, which is, hospitals are starting to get packed again, and the numbers of infections are going up for COVID. But that's not going to be the case in a couple of months. Europe already started trending down like 2.5 weeks ago or more, and we're the way I figure it, and I'm one of those people who pretends to be an epidemiologist when he's not one at all. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. No, I didn't. But yeah, that's 12 thoughts in a row. Uh, Point being, right?
I think it's the salmon jacket. It's just giving
eh,
you delusions of grandeur.
Yeah, I once won $7 at Saratoga with this jacket on Travers Day.
There you go.
It took me like 200 to get there, but I did come out a little bit ahead that day. So I think we're going to start trending down, very quickly. They talk about the Thanksgiving spike, the second wave, whatever. The death rate
I
is
mean,
way down, right?
yeah.
I mean, and if you're starting to, what the whole point of this, what I'm saying is, we're projecting April now, right? We're projecting April. Like, I'll be shocked if we're anywhere near where we are right now in April in terms of COVID. Everything's going to be, warming up around most of the United States and even North America at that time. And, people will start to get outdoors more. If it happens to be a mild spring as well, like those things are all going to push the rate down in addition to the vaccine, in addition to more people having had it, and in addition to, getting closer and closer and closer to that herd. So if I'm one of these baseball teams and I'm running the finances for these teams, if I see Charlie Morton at $15 million for 1 year, I'm feeling like that's a pretty damn good deal.
I'll throw another wrinkle in there for you. Um, so you're Trevor Bauer, right? Now sometimes you might want to go till right before spring training, right, to go and sign. We had a couple of years ago. The guys are waiting until the very, very, very end.
Yeah, Harper and Machado, right? Yeah.
What if you're afraid of getting COVID? You're Trevor Bauer. You're looking at $100 million right now. Obviously more. 130, 140, whatever this number is. Do you take the chance you don't get a COVID, and for whatever wacky reason you get a bad result, and all of a sudden a super prime athlete is all of a sudden no longer a super prime athlete? I don't know. Maybe that's a 1% risk. But I tell you what, a 1% risk at 150 million, so 1.5 million. Versus
Listen,
changing your life versus maybe not.
possible, possible, but
I mean,
unlikely,
I don't
right?
know. If I had to sign now versus, I can get 140 now, or if I wait a little bit, I can get 150. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be that cute on that. Or something doesn't work with the vaccine. It goes the other way, or it mutates or something like that. All of a sudden the season gets canceled. And all of a sudden you got a real hard cap coming in because teams lost money last year, but they look at a second year in a row. They're really going to cut back on stuff. So I think that's another interesting wrinkle on that if I'm a player or an agent, I want to get it done sooner rather than later. Like the things are starting to line up behind you a little bit. That all right, the vaccine's coming. Like all the good news is starting to come. I tell you, I wouldn't take that risk if I'm not him. I'd go and get signed. I wouldn't get cute sitting there trying to wait till February.
Okay.
You could be in a different
I,
world by then.
I'm gonna bring you one.
That's a credit guy.
Okay.
Don't screw around.
I know. I'm gonna. I'm
Sign it.
gonna. I'm
Sign
gonna.
it.
Okay.
With,
So
different world by then. Schmitty's
well,
on.
I'm gonna.
Genesis
I'm
on.
gonna bring you one.
Oh, never mind.
I messed up my audio there for a second. Sorry if that went over. Okay. So my one of the guys that used to be in my strat league, Okay, let me credit one of the other guys that used to be in my strat league. So his name is Pete Blazovic, and his band Tasty Reckless has a song called Skinny. And if you happen to tune into the live stream while the countdown is going on, that's their song. So check them
Nice.
out. And Pete has given me a permission to use it at will. So I just wanted to give them a little shout out. That's my guy, Pete. And one of the guys that played in the strat league with us, this guy named Jim. Real smart guy. Really a real sharp cat. And by the way, uh, okay, I haven't seen Uncle Paul check in, but I see Lou Monaco checking in on Facebook. So good, hi Lou. So Jim, in the early days of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, got on the show in like that first run of 15 shows where Regis Philbin was on, which took America by storm. I mean, the ratings were through the roof. There, we weren't obsessed with like all this live streaming crap like we have now, on a Monday night. Like normally you'd be watching the Mary Tyler Moore show. Instead, you're watching Diehards, and we thank you for that. We thank you. Uh, it was like 80 million viewers. It was like the Super Bowl every night with Regis with his plain ties on. So my friend Jim gets on. Now he doesn't tell us about this because it was all taped, so we find out later. So he gets on. Back then you had to win the fastest finger thing. There's like 12 people around in a circle, and they put up a question, and whoever answered it correctly the fastest was the one that got to sit in the hot seat. And everybody's watching. So he gets there, right? And he gets to like, I don't know. The format was slightly different back then in the beginning. You can go back and watch it. But essentially what it is, you answer a series of questions, and the further you go, if you get all the way to the end and you answer correctly, a multiple choice of 4 questions, you get $1 million. And if not, you could stop and then you go back to whatever your previous plateau was. You could quit. You could say, you know what, I'm good here, or you could take a shot. And if you miss, you get back. You go look it up if you're not familiar with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Anyway, so Jim, who's a really smart guy, loses and ends up walking away with like $1,000 or $800 because it's how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon, dog. And he doesn't use his, on such an early question, he doesn't use any kind of lifeline. He just tries to answer it. And of course, you know the answer, right, dog? Without Googling it.
2 teaspoons and a tablespoon.
It's 3. So,
Yep. Oh well.
so, I think, I don't know. It's 2 or 3,
I don't think it's
whichever
3.
it
I
was.
think it's 2 or 4, isn't it?
Whatever it was, he got it wrong. So I was like, well, did you
Maybe
know
it's
it? He goes, well, I don't know. Dog's gonna Google it while
Okay,
I literally always knew the answer to that question after his story, right up until this moment when I'm on the air, and I'm like, oh shit, like I can't remember how many it is. Put it in the comments, somebody. So I'm like, if you weren't like sure, why didn't you just use your lifeline? Like use up all your lifelines right at the beginning just to get wherever you could get. And he goes, no. That actually, I understand why somebody would do that, but I didn't go there to win $1,000. I went there to win 100,000 or 250,000. And I was like, oh, you know what? That's a really good point. So he got there, he got his shot, and rather than the hedge, right? Like that's definitely one strategy where you could go and if you look, you're on the third question. If you don't know it, just use your lifelines. He's like, no, I'm going to guess because I'm going to need my lifeline on the harder question. I'd rather take my chance at guessing now, losing, and then I blew it. I still walked away with a little something. It's not what I wanted, but you know, in case I guessed right, now I still have my lifeline. Maybe that gets me from 100,000 to 250,000. And I always thought that was a very interesting take on it. Now, how does that apply to what we're talking about? Well, Trevor Bauer maybe is in that spot right now where he could say, well, this is my shot, like if I want to do what Dog's talking about, then yes, I'm putting the money in my pocket and it's a life-changing amount of money, which he's probably practically already making anyway. But now he goes into a different stratosphere where he's above 20 and possibly above $30 million a season for an extended period, and clearly into the nine-figure level career salary numbers, right? So is he going to get that anyway? And what's the point? What's the difference between 150 and 140 versus 140 and like 14 million, right? That's what you're saying.
Yep.
So there is a small chance that something like that could happen. He could also, be playing with his dog and, sprain his ankle or fracture his ankle and be in a walking boot and, fail a physical, and then nobody wants to give him a long-term thing, right? You know my point. So anything could happen. Like, is COVID as much of a threat? Honestly, the National League MVP is Freddie Freeman. He had probably the worst case of COVID that I've heard of any athlete having. And, he had 10 days where he had like, a fever and he felt really awful, and then he came back and he won the fucking National League MVP. So, I don't think, again, and this is coming from somebody who had it and who's, 20 years older than Trevor Bauer and probably not ever been as close to as good a shape as that guy's in. And, I was able to shake it off pretty easily, as most people have. Some people have gotten, sick for a short period of time. And, other people, unfortunately, have, met it as the fate, to the end of their life, which is terrible, horrible, and unfortunate. But if you're just talking about Trevor Bauer right now, um, I don't know. If I was his agent, I'd be like, you know what, Trev, we're rolling the dice, kid. I'm not. Stay in your house. If you're worried about that, just stay in your house. Don't. Nobody's coming in. Nobody's going out. Maybe we'll bring you some groceries. You could order in as much as you want. Tell them to leave it at the door, and and then once that contract's signed, sealed, delivered, and you pass your physical, then you can go out and do whatever you want. So that's how I would handle it, I think. Does that
All
make
right.
sense? Dog's still like, yeah, we're signing today.
3 teaspoons and tablespoon.
Oh,
The
I was
Riz is
right.
correct.
I was right.
You were correct. I had to look it up. I don't like that.
That's me doing the Kirk Gibson. Oh, it's good, and I have a little scruff today. That's like Gibby like.
There you go. Gibby would never wear that jacket. He could never pull it off.
Gibby would totally wear this. Gibby would.
He would wear a
rock.
Dodger blue, and he would pull that off.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh, we should shout out for yesterday. Friend of the show, Vin Scully. Happy birthday, Vin Scully, yesterday.
Yeah, what was that?
What up, guys?
93 or 92?
93, I believe. 93.
Okay.
Honey voiced Vin.
I'm writing down the notes here.
Rod Tidwell moment.
Trevor Bauer, COVID decision. Charlie Morton. Okay, you know what that means.
We've talked everything but the catchers.
Yeah, you know what that means. We're going to talk catchers. So you got to be silent and let me intro this whole thing, because I'm going to introduce our little charge thing here. I'm going to do it live. So I don't have to do it later in post-production. I'm going to do it right now. All right, so we're going to transition over and we're going to talk about the catchers. The top guy. How was that, Dog? Was it good? It was good, right?
It was good. It was excellent.
It was good. It was good. It was good. Thank you, Jerry Maloney.
It was very good.
Jerry Maloney.
Very good.
Jerry Maloney, you've created a monster. And it's me. And Dog. So you have a dog and a monster. Okay.
Really more of a sidekick.
You are a proponent. Same shit. You are a proponent of JT Realmuto being, I believe he is your number one overall free agent guy that you want for your team. And, probably like, except for a team that really already has a good catcher, right? Which there's not that many. You would strongly advise ponying up to sign this guy.
Right.
On the other hand, not by design, but just by convenience, I am not necessarily a fan of doing that, except if you are signing him to catch 100 games a season and you have the ability and the willingness to either DH him most of the rest of the time or let him play a position out in the field. He's only else played first base. I would love a guy like that to also be able to play third, since he's still, relatively in that prime window. He's like 30. He'll be 30 in March. So fine. I could live with it. You're giving him money. You're giving him term. He could definitely, be a good player. He's great defensively. He's very good offensively. But Dog wants him, and he wants him behind the dish. What, 120 every year, 145 every year, or how many games you want him to catch for you?
I would say, I mean, especially with a little bit, I mean, as many as you can get away with. I think what would be, I haven't looked at his, I don't know his numbers in front of me here, but I'm gonna guess 130 is probably reasonable at this age for him.
I gave you the link
Probably,
so you could compare them. You can have the little comparison thingy up for you.
I don't know,
So.
I should pull up here. Hold on, let me fire it up here.
All right, I'll talk over you so you can fire it up. So what Dog is going to look up is he's going to have that thing that we teased before, which is James JT Realmuto on the top and a split half of a page that has James McCann on the bottom, and you can navigate the top part and the bottom part of the pages independently. So if you're looking up games, right, you
Really counting a lot on Dog's handling of trying to close the ads, close.
Come on, dog. Come on, dog. You got more.
All right, all right,
You
all right.
Dog has more degrees than the Sahara Desert. Come on, you can figure this out. So
145 games in 2019. I don't know how many catching.
right. So if you scroll down, you'll see that 130 of them were starts and 3 relief appearances, a catcher, and
Who called
117 of
that?
them complete.
130 right here.
You did. You
That's
did.
what I want. That's what I
So
want.
he's caught total games caught like behind the. I mean, we could do starts, but games. Let's just go games. In
Yep.
15, he caught 118, then 129, 126, 112, 133, and then in the truncated season, he caught 36. And he's added, a few games here and there. Like when there's been a DH, he DH'd, a few times for the Marlins, and he was able to play first base a few times. He DH'd 9 times for the Phillies last season, and he played at first base 6 times. So he was able to add a few games in there, and so he played 47 out of the Phillies' 60 games overall. So I can't remember if he was hurt or he got some days off. I think maybe it was a combination of both. The Phillies were lucky. I don't think they had too many of those games pushed into double headers. But even for a 7 inning double header, if you catch the first one, you could always go and catch a couple of innings or two in the back end if you needed to. But the point being, he's that's in my estimation, I want to catch him at a little bit of a slower rate because I envision the guy getting like a 5, and or maybe you have to give him 6 years if you want to get him. If you want to sign him, I feel like you might have to go to the 5th, 6th year, whatever. I could be wrong. I mean, I'd love to get him for 4, but however many years I get him, I want to multiply that by 100 games a season behind the plate because I want to decrease his attrition rate behind the plate. I want him to still be able to hit, and I want him to still be able to catch in September, where he's not completely fried out. So when I catch him more in October in the playoffs, he's still going to be the guy that I want or need him to be. A lower middle of the order hitter, and a great guy behind the plate, and a good guy in the locker room, and a leader and stuff like that. Dog, you feel like he's maybe, you rate him higher. I mean, I don't know. You rate him higher. You want to play him more, but you're the risk guy. So it's kind of funny that we're sort of on opposite ends with Real Muto, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of his advantage is the fact. I mean, he's a great hitter as well, but part of the big thing to me is he's the best defensive catcher out there, in my opinion, right now. And to me, that helps unlock the value of the Met pitchers, particularly a Syndergaard, DeGrom to a degree. Stroman, I think, is okay with the hold, but the Met pitchers, as dominant as they are in terms of strikeouts and whatnot, they do have trouble keeping guys off the base or guys on the base paths contained. So getting a guy with a good arm and good good ability to nail guys stealing is a huge advantage to the rotation overall. And do you eventually have to scale him down time? I would say so, but I mean, he's not 35. I mean, he's 30. He's in the middle. Yes, catchers age faster, but he only had 30 games last year, right? So you kind of get a little bit of a breather there for what he's had to go through. So I think I think still a 130. I think it's a reasonable expectation.
But you don't worry about the attrition on the back end of that contract then. So do you pay? Are you a fan of paying him
think
more for less
I don't know.
years?
I don't know if you get. I think just when those guys hit it, they hit it. I almost just kind of think that like I'm not sure that if you give him 20 less games a year, if that actually extends him a year. That's the sort of problem I'd have. So I'd rather make sure that I got him while he's hitting, while he's good defensively. I'd rather ride him, right? Because when they go, the catchers tend to go, right? So I'm not. I guess your Johnny Bench argument was one that was probably the best one. I would say in terms of getting a guy off and they taking it easy on the knees and extending it down and whatnot. But the rest of the guys, it tends to be like the catchers will go, and then when they go, they go.
It's also the Yogi Berra argument too.
Yeah,
Bench was a
well.
little more versatile because he could play the infield. Berra, but
Well,
Berra played
that's
the
what I'm saying.
outfield.
Like you're the way you're planning on using a Realmuto would be more akin to like a Johnny Bench, who did maintain it for a long time, and he did have less wear and tear on himself.
Yeah, and then when they needed him to catch big games, he could still do it. Like I mean, not that he could just still do it, but he could do it effectively. I mean, so now I present to you James McCann. I'll put the glasses on for that. I'm going to present James McCann.
Roll up.
James McCann he's about a year older, okay? And over the last 2 seasons, basically you could not tell these guys too much apart. Realmuto has been, you could argue slightly better, but it's not by much. So if you go to the last full season, or in 2019, that was Realmuto's trade season when he went from the Marlins to the Phillies. And he hit 275, 328 on base, 493 slugging, and an 820 OPS. He had 25 homers, 83 ribbies. Does anybody care about ribbies? And 36 doubles, which is kind of a nice thing. 92 runs, very, very good for a catcher, right? 41 walks, not really a great walk rate. James McCann playing for the White Sox I think that was that a trade? I don't know. That was his first year after spending the early part of his career with the Tigers, where he's been the type of catcher that I've liked, where he's, 114 games, 105, 106, 118, 118, and then last year 31. So in that season, he was in 118 games, 273 versus Realmuto's 275. 328 and identical on base. 460 slugging versus 493. And a 798 on base plus slugging. 18 homers, 26 doubles. So the difference really was the 36 doubles versus the 26 doubles. Realmuto played a little more. His homer rate was higher, but he's also playing in Philadelphia, which is really great hitters park. Sox Park, I don't think is a bad hitter's park, but I don't think it's as good as Citizens Bank. Now we go to last season, where it's the shortened sample. 47 games for Realmuto, 31 for McCann, and he splits time behind the plate with Yasmani Grandal, and they both become finalists for the Gold Glove in the American League, the two guys splitting time at catcher. So McCann out hits him 289 to 266. He out on base percentages him 360 to 349. Good news for Realmuto was that his walk rate increased. He outslugs him 536 to 491, and his OPS is 896 compared to 840. Now again, small sample, truncated season, 111 plate appearances for him versus 195 for Realmuto. So, a little more than half. But that's a good, like his numbers are trending up for a season and a half. Like he could be one of these guys that all of a sudden that 29 with a change of scenery from the putrid Tigers who were, actually good when he was first there and, have been the worst team in the league basically ever since. Um, this guy is a very solid receiver behind the plate. I sent you their numbers, their defensive numbers that, McCann is among the top guys every season in the American League in runners thrown out and percentage. He's not number one every year, but he's like in the top five every season throwing guys out. That helps your pitching staff a lot. So if I was going to bet which guy was going to hit a little bit better than the other, I'd probably still bet Realmuto, but I wouldn't be surprised if McCann out hit him. And who's a better fielder? It's maybe still it's Realmuto, but it whatever it is, it's not that big of a gap between these guys. The second guy is the guy you never heard of, and he made $5.4 million last year. The first guy is the darling that everybody wants, and he made 10 million last year and 5.9 the year before, and he's due for a huge raise compared to that. So my point is, I'm talking to both of these guys, and whichever term and deal I like better, that's the guy that I'm going after. Like I don't, and especially a catcher, I don't want to put long years into these guys. I just don't because, like you said, even when you do handle them with kid gloves, a lot of times they do fall off a cliff. But, you know, I sort of feel better if McCann's falling off a cliff than if Real Muto falls off a cliff for some reason, I guess. Unless both guys end up with, 18 or $20 million a year contracts. I'll be surprised, in the end, I'll bet this. I'll bet this. I'll bet Real Muto in his total dollars in his contract makes at least twice as much more as McCann when they're both signed, sealed, and delivered. And if you want to prorate it
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
per year,
He probably gets the extra year.
he probably gets the extra year. And if you want to prorate it like in terms of average annual value, then I could see McCann maybe running in there around the 10 million mark, and Real Muto may. I don't know if Real Muto will get 20, but he might. He might,
Yeah.
right? So we'll see. At least double, possibly triple the total numbers, and I'll say close to, but not exactly double the average annual value. Although I should probably not be a wuss. I once predicted Frankie Edgar as a massive underdog would beat BJ Penn, and then I backed off it slightly. And I also had Holly Holm beating Ronda Rousey, and then I backed off that too. So you know what? I'm going to say it. Real Muto, his average annual value will be at least twice as much as what McCann gets. And is he going to be twice the player? He won't be twice the player. He may be better. He might not even be better. He might not even be better. So I'm on. I don't. This is not. I am not knocking Real Muto. And if I was his agent, I'd make sure he got as many years and as much money as he could get because he damn well deserves it. But if I'm a GM, I mean, Steve Cohen or whatever, like this, I'm looking at the other guy. I am looking at the other guy first.
Rumors were that the Mets are in on McCann as well.
Well,
so I didn't say. I agree. I didn't say that either one that you can get, you really can't go wrong there.
They're also in on two of the big four, which includes Lindor, the potential trade guy in that.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not. It seems like the Mets are kind of knocking down a little bit on the. I was listening to Alderson over the weekend on with Jim Duquette, and it seems like they're sort of acknowledging, right? You have the system and you have money to get players, right? So they have all the money they need, and then some. But in terms of the system, Brody kind of cashed those chips. I mean, the Mets have some guys, and they have some guys lined up in multiple spots. So you do potentially have a shortstop because you have Rosario, you have Jimenez. You figure you can keep one, trade the other guy or something like that. Maybe a Davis or something like that. But you don't have especially when you go down to the minors, you really don't have a lot at the upper minor league level. That's basically been traded away. They don't have that much time. I mean, Jimenez is probably the best sort of one. and he's still probably, you need another solid year for him to really make him like a true valued prospect to someone outside your organization. So you're really kind of talking money, in my opinion. And I don't, the Lindor one, I think it's gonna be too tough. Like it's not like he's just super expensive, like a Bryant, right? So let's say that the Cubs kept Bryant, but they decide, you know what, ugh, we're gonna get killed, or like he comes out and he gets a good arbitration ruling, right? And they're like, oh my God, this guy got like $20 million, and like we're not there, right? That's the kind of thing where I could see a Cohen going in and say, fine, we'll take the guy for his year. We'll overpay him for this year and then look to restructure a contract or something like that. Like that's something where you can use the money to your advantage on there. For Lindor, the problem is like there's a lot of other teams that could, maybe up and coming teams that could use a Lindor, but also have more talent to trade back to the Indians. Right? The Indians want to get young, controllable talent with low price and whatnot. Mets don't really have that. That's the problem, in my opinion. So that's why I kind of think of all the stuff. I think the Lindor one, well, it'd be nice. I just don't really see that lining up. Certainly not like now. Like maybe that would be a July trade. They can say, they're looking, they just want to get something because he's going to walk. Then maybe you do something where the Mets can kind of line up with that. But otherwise, I think that one's a toughie. I think Springer, to me, it feels like Springer is sort of like their number one guy. And the Blue Jays kind of know it, and they're trying to get ahead of it. Is sort of my thought on it. So I actually kind of think Springer might be the first big chip to fall, and that will start to set the stage for all the rest of the guys.
Well,
So,
I think it is a wonderful thing that today we eschewed our typical pre-show meeting, and we did some of the stuff by text, but we seem to be on the same page. And Dog, you couldn't have laid that up more perfectly for me, because I want to talk about the Blue Jays for a second. The Blue Jays are the rumor team right now. They are in on everybody, apparently, which means they're going to either sign everybody or they're going to sign nobody. And, with their young core, the way that they have it, like, they probably shouldn't even bother trying to sign a lot of these guys. Like, they should just maybe look for one guy or like a decent part that fits in with these other guys, and like let the core sort of build, and then like worry about who you're going to fill in around them. And maybe you get like some of these other guys that even come up through the minors that you weren't kind of expecting to be your best prospects, but they join in and they become real good contributors. They're in on like every article you read, and the Blue Jays are interested in this guy and this guy and this guy. They were interested in
reminds me of the Wilpons.
right, and then what did they end up doing? They
Scozola.
when they finally signed the guy, everybody hated whoever it was that they signed. So I I'm not buying I'm not buying the Blue Jays. Frankly, I'm just not. I mean, I think it makes
But they
sense.
know if they can play in their own country.
Yeah, that's true.
They're sort of building a ballpark. Like, where do you put
True.
it? Buffalo?
Yeah. Look at I know a lot of people probably are not following like the ins and outs of the NBA right now, even though their camps are about to start. The Toronto Raptors, who won the NBA championship in the last full season, not this past season, like the last normal life season, they're playing in Tampa Bay this season. Until they're let essentially, travel restrictions between the U.S. and Canada are expired, which they're not at all. They're playing in Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Raptors, for this year. I mean, as if anybody could care even less. Yes, they're really testing it. They might care more about them than the Rays. Who knows? But it's like
Look at another
Bucks.
championship in Tampa Bay somehow.
Yeah, it's like the Bucks and the Lightning
But they
just
still won't care.
yeah, no, the Bucks and the Lightning like rule that place, and the Rays are like should be right in the middle of that group, and like they can't even get a headline from these guys. Like Steven Stamkos farted on Thursday. Oh, and who did the Rays? The Rays are trading Blake Snell. Wait, who's that? He's the guy that should still be in the game right now on November 30th. Is who he is. Give me a break. So the Blue Jays
You have a
are
system.
the Blue Jays are in on everybody. They're in on DJ LeMahieu. They're in on this guy. They're in on that guy. They're in on Chris Bryant. They're in on all these guys. And then I see an article today that says if they don't get LeMahieu, then the guy they're really going to go after is Colton Wong, who I said should be the Yankees' backup position at second base if they decide not to go through LeMahieu. Now, to me, you don't sign Colton Wong unless you're going to play him at second base, and the Blue Jays have a guy named Kevin Biggio at second base. Like, he's your second baseman for the next, like, however many years you want to have him as your second baseman, because he's only just going to keep getting better and better and better. And so you're going to sign Colton Wong to go over and play third. Okay, well, whatever, I mean, come on. It just, like, some of the stuff you try to add up, and it just doesn't make any sense. And then you keep scrolling down. Blue Jays in on this guy. Blue Jays in on that guy. Blue Jays, Blue Jays. I'm like, come on. Did Steve Cohen buy the Blue Jays too? Like, and I didn't hear about it. Come on, the Blue Jays are not. The Blue Jays are not signing these guys. And if you're a Blue Jays fan, and they have a decent fan base, and especially like people that have followed me over from RNC Radio to hear from my MMA show, Rear Naked Choke Radio, to hear that's my co-host for a long time was Jay Kelly. He's based in Toronto, so we've had there's people from Toronto that follow. He makes fun of him because he wouldn't know baseball if it hit him in the head, but the Jays have a good fan base. The people who like baseball there, they really love it. And it's a great place to go see a game. You should definitely go. I went on Canada Day a couple of years ago with the family.
Nice.
Jays Tigers on a Monday. It was the only game going on in the majors. It was a Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and it was a great we had a great time. I got the cup downstairs. The 24-ounce cup. The Suvi cup. And if I'm a Jays fan, I don't want them to go out and sign all these guys and corrupt it. Now, if you're going to sign pitching, again, that's Dog. You've heard me say this over and over. I will make the mistakes on pitching. I will make the mistakes there. I don't want to make the mistakes on fielding players. And if I'm looking for a fielding player right now, and the guy I'm looking at is George Springer. I'm looking at George Springer only if I'm like a playoff contention team right now. I'm looking at George Springer to add to my team, provided I can already make the playoffs actually without him. That's what I'm looking. That I am looking for him to take a playoff team and put it over the top and make it into a World Series championship type team. I'm not looking at George Springer as a guy who's got to take me from 78 wins to making the playoffs. I don't want him there for that. So to me, that he makes the Mets. The Mets are a good candidate for him. In that argument, that's one place where you could maybe argue the Blue Jays actually that should be one of the guys that they go after. But ahead of that, Trevor Bauer is just more valuable to me than any of those guys because he formulates the possibility that you could do that more so than the other guys. He goes right to the front of your rotation. If you already happen to have a number one, that's great. If not, he slots right in there. He has no problem taking over that spot, and he wants to do it. And if he's number two, then your number one guy is like really your number one guy is Garrett Cole or Jacob DeGrom, basically, right?
Yeah.
Or Walker Buehler. So it's kind of a like he's a guy that's like Trevor Bauer could do sort of both of those things. Like he could help take you from 78 wins to making the playoffs to actually winning the World Series. George Springer could do one of the two, but not both, and I'd rather have him for the second one. Again, the Mets are definitely the best fit for him. He'd be fine also staying in Houston, but they do have a dearth of outfield prospects. Kyle Tucker can move in there. They got the other kid who got hurt. He's the big DH, but he could play in the outfield if they need him to. I can't remember his name. I sound like Mike Francesa. He made a great career forgetting guys' name. The kid, the big kid from Houston, the lefty, who was great in the regular season 2 years ago and then struck out like every playoff at bat. I had him on my fantasy team and he was really good. I just can't even remember his name. It's okay. I'm not even drinking. It's just water. I swear to God.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, we've talked before, like Springer versus Bauer, and I don't disagree with your assessment of Bauer versus Springer. The only issue I have is I'm concerned about the volatility of
I
Bauer
don't disagree with
himself, and the fact that he's been more up and down. Whereas I think I'm getting more of a known commodity with this Springer. Like, and they get like new owner coming in. I don't know. It's just like the Met curse or whatever. But it just feels like you go out. The first thing you're doing is 5 years, 30 million each. Trevor Bauer goes out and just gets absolutely railed, like the first like 3 or 4 times out, and it's like, oh my God, we went this is we're right back to where we were. We're just wasting the money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard to see that with George Springer, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen with any sort of player, but I just think that guy's just it's you get less volatility typically with a guy like that, and and that's why I like a DeGrom versus a Bauer. Right? Like Bauer had a great year, but like DeGrom's had a great career, right? So that's why like I if it came to signing, that's why I felt fine about giving whatever it took for DeGrom. I'm not as sure if I'm there on Bauer. I mean, I hope they get him. I think he's the best pitcher out there, obviously. So, and I think it will probably work out. And the difference probably in the past is, in the Wilpons, it would have been Bauer or nothing, Bauer, nothing else, right? So you'd like that'd be your shot, and if it didn't work, you were doomed for like the
I,
next
I
3 years.
just, I,
Like
I,
versus like now, the Mets can make a mistake on Bauer, and they can go get another guy. That's kind of what always sort of made the Yankees great is they could take that call it risk. I mean, it's not a huge risk getting the guy, but there's a chance he could revert back to a mediocre level, a 3 starter instead of the 1A, 1B that you were talking about. Um, and then you could still go out and get another guy to give you that extra oomph versus, again, like if you're Toronto, right? That's it, right? And you're going to shoot for Bauer, and if he doesn't work, you're screwed.
right.
And now he's like a malcontent, not doing well, with a huge contract, and you're going to wind up getting your face ripped off eventually. When you eventually dump him off for a salary relief, and get nothing for him.
This might be an interesting thing, an interesting reason why I would sign.
That being said, I'm getting his jersey for the Mets on him. This guy's gonna be great. Super agent.
Now look, there is one, and I say one possibility where you brought it up without bringing this part of it up. There's one possibility, a strong potential one, where it would make sense for the Blue Jays to just blitz guys, a bunch of good guys with like 1 year or very, very, very short term deals for a fair amount of money. And I don't know how all the economics of this would work. But let's say they're not allowed to start the season or play the season in Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have to relocate. Are they going to relocate to Buffalo again? I'm going to say no. I say they follow the Raptors and maybe don't go to Tampa, but they go somewhere in Florida. And if they're playing their home games in Florida, their players are now no longer subject. Forget about the crazy taxes in Canada. Now they're not even getting income tax on their salaries in Florida. So they could make like 33% more on the same term
Good,
and
eh?
dollar on your contract for a year or two. And then, if we like the Blue Jays so much, we'll go back and we'll file them up to Canada. What's the interesting thing to me, dog, is and this is like more in your wheelhouse. I don't know.
Well,
Wait,
well, go ahead.
hold on. Maybe we should do one of those things where we switch we switch gears here and we talk about finances. Let's do that.
We gonna charge again?
He predicted it. So let's talk about finances for a second, since this is the dog's kind of his wheelhouse. He's got, like we said, he's got more degrees in the Sahara Desert. But this is not just a baseball issue to me. This is, I mean, it's a big issue in hockey where you have, 7 teams that play in Canada. and the rest of them, 25 of them playing. Well, at least by the start of next whatever season it is, the one after that, Seattle will be in there, so that'll be 25. Basketball, you have one team that's north of the border, but um, even from football's sake, where every team is located for now until the Jaguars move to London, um, you have this issue where you have in these other sports, and not baseball, but in the other sports, you have a salary cap, right? Which means in some of the sports the cap is a hard cap, meaning it's just straight up dollars. What's the value of the contract for this year? How much does that count against the salary cap? And you're not allowed to go a dollar over it. They have this other stuff in the NBA, which is it's this flexing cap that it's like a hydra. It like breathes out and breathes in, and you could pay a little more to re-sign your own players. It's not the fine details are not important. The main detail I really want to pick your brain on, dog, is this: some of these states and some of these Canadian, the country and or the province, the taxes on the actual dollars against the contract are so high, and then you go to Texas and Florida, and there's no tax on your income. So if I sign a deal for $10 million a season or for however long, and I'm playing for a team based in Texas or Florida, that money's like I'm getting a lot more money to play on one of those teams than I am if I'm playing in my beloved home state of New Jersey, or if I'm a Canadian, right? I'm getting taxed up the wazoo playing in Canada. So how is it that we haven't figured to this point that there should be an adjustment within the salary cap that allows teams to pay the max for what a team that's based in Texas can pay a player should be it should be lower than the max of like what a team in Toronto could pay him, shouldn't it?
Because the Players Association would freak out, right? I mean, it's the short answer on it. that would mean lowering player salaries, right? So
Would it?
blank, they would say, sure,
Why?
because they have less money to spend. That's money that's going to come from somewhere else. Now the argument is, I mean,
you've just
in terms of state. I mean, I hear what you're saying. Like from an owner's perspective, 100%, right? The players should be made flat, but that's the way they look at contracts is on a gross basis, not a net basis, right? So while yes, it's true, like a net cap versus a gross cap would make more sense. I just don't see that happening at this point. I mean, in terms of state income tax, again, sort of 5 or 6%, right? So, I mean, the bigger one you would probably argue is actually more than the tax is like the cost of living, right? So, like, say you wanted to get you want to get a ranch outside of Houston.
Well, let me stop you there. I wouldn't put that in my argument. And I actually have a reason why I wouldn't put that in my argument, because that becomes from a free agent standpoint, that becomes a decision that's a quality of life decision rather than just a pure numbers decision. What I want is all the numbers being equal. Do I want to go live in a ranch that's going to cost me $1.6 million in Dallas, as opposed to a similar place that's going to cost me $5 million out in Peterborough, Ontario, or something like, I don't know, just pick the town, right? I mean that, or Westchester.
It sounds like the entire town in Ontario.
Yeah, or Westchester, New York, right? Like, so I want to go play for the Rangers, right? And okay, they're going to give me this much, and they're going to give me $12 million a year, and well, I should say the hockey Rangers, not because we're on a baseball podcast, like the Texas Rangers. Or so I'm a two-sport athlete, and
if you're confused, folks, don't worry, I'm not following this either.
I want to play for the Texas Rangers and the New York Rangers. No, I mean, like,
girls are talking that. I
Like
was told there'd be no baths tonight.
so that's a difference of, you're choosing the area which you want to live. I'm saying let your dollars at least be equal. Like, dude, it's 2020. How is there not a net cap? And how is the net, not relevant to the luxury tax the thresholds as well? Like what?
Yeah.
I mean,
And you would
how hard
argue
is this to figure out? They have websites that do this shit like nothing. They
True.
can't figure that out. I mean, it's
I mean,
like one algorithm.
typically in your high tax states, right? You generally have more revenue opportunities. So let's say like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, that you have more advertising opportunities, et cetera, things like that.
Oh
More
yeah,
promotional
like when Sonny
opportunities.
when Sonny Gray came to the Yankees and was the most popular player overnight. Like that? Oh
Yes,
wait.
like that.
Oh, did I miss that? Or like that time when he blocked Jerry Milani, his biggest fan, on Twitter. That was
Well, sometimes you can't correct for stupid.
that
But
was a that was a
little
douche.
inside baseball joke there.
That was a little douche canoe move by Sonny Gray, I'd have to
That
say.
was not a smart move.
Oh,
So
whatever.
yeah, I don't know. And my sort of guess is again, it's just why the gross versus the net is just they don't want to show anything that appears to show players' salaries going down, even though I agree from their net perspective it shouldn't matter. But I'm gonna guess just MLBPA is like no, and they're too strong to move off of that.
But
So that's why you're stuck with a
I
gross.
feel like it would actually increase salaries. I feel like you're then more, because there's more places where the tax has a negative effect on the player, and you'd basically be allowing teams to pay guys more,
I don't know
essentially.
if there'd be that many places, right? I mean, you'd have who are you really talking? You're talking, say for baseball, right? You're talking Red Sox, Mets, Yankees. I'm not sure what is in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania state tax is probably not huge, would be my guess. Um,
I don't know. There's got
the California teams.
Illinois, where you got two, right?
Illinois would be high. Yeah, Illinois, I'm sure is a high one.
But I mean, and then maybe it would become,
Washington, maybe for Seattle. I'm not sure what theirs is out there. I mean,
DC.
it's really
DC is
only sort of
probably high, right?
the older sort of states and stuff that tend to have like a higher state income tax. Most of the other places don't have it. It's not normally that big of a that big of a switch, right? If it's Kansas City versus, I don't know.
Why not
It's
even it out?
Arizona. Like I don't know if that's you're talking 1%, 2%, right? I mean, it's not going to be that significant a move
It
for
is
these
when it's
guys.
on millions,
And
isn't
plus, when
it?
you come to visit anyway in New York, I think they tax you anyway. I
They
don't know
do,
if they still do.
as
Yeah.
a yeah,
But
as a
it'd be
visiting
for 4
player,
games versus
yeah,
81. Yeah.
yeah, and again, like, I mean, and hey, you think the taxes are high now? Wait till you see the next 4 years. Oh,
There you
you're
go.
gonna love it.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be good
Oh,
stuff.
you're gonna love it. Wait,
Fairness,
I didn't think
fairness, Joe.
I didn't
Just remember the worst 4-letter word in America. Fair.
I didn't think the taxes could go higher in New Jersey. Oh no, they always
Oh yeah.
can. They
Oh yeah.
always can.
So
That's
all right.
that's our,
So
but
we did. All right. So we did our catchers.
it's
We
our
did our
choice though, dog. It's our
Springer
choice.
Bauer.
Springer
We've done
Bauer,
finance.
Morton,
What's that?
finances. Wait,
At the
I
end
gotta
of the
write.
day,
I gotta write. Fi,
he's got his glasses on there. Okay.
finances. Dog
Shelf books.
will
That's there. Very
figure
nice.
out net cap. That'll be next show. I think we just champion the net cap. What do you think?
There we go.
I think
We'll
we
have to
just
say about how
champion it.
we'll increase the cap for high tax teams. That's the way to play it.
Yeah,
You say everything's flat now, and then these guys get to pay extra to offset the taxes.
it's even.
That's how you sell it.
It evens the playing field. I don't know. I feel
I
like
think Steve Cohen eats every break he can get.
yeah, I think he does. He's
He
still
should have more money to play with versus other teams.
well, they still have to have the willingness. The larger market teams still have to have the willingness to pay the guys in the end, right?
True.
So if they're not willing to pay, now they have to pay X amount to equal out what the guy's going to get somewhere else, or it's
Right. I mean, who's the last guy who did that, right? I want to say like Mike Hampton. It's the last guy I can think of like that. And I think he just hated New York. But you really don't, yeah, you honestly don't really hear that very often. That's why one guy chose one versus the other. I
Well,
can't
the
remember the last one
players are
where he had
not
something like
the
that.
players are not saying it, but these are the things that the agents are talking about behind, closed doors all the time. Because what are they doing? They'll steer guys to certain places if they want to change their commissions. They're going to get more commissions off of it
Yeah.
the other
I
way,
mean,
right?
it's a three, let's say typically it would be on average, I'm going to say maybe it's a 3% swing, right? So, I mean, Houston, Florida is a um, more extreme example, right? Because you have you're talking to 0 versus 5. But even that, I mean, if it's 0 versus 5, it's 20 million versus 19 million, right? So
That sounds like a
there's a,
lot to me. I don't know what
yeah,
kind of money you're
I mean,
dealing with.
it's not nothing. I mean, yeah, if it's even Steven, yeah, when you pick one versus the other, sure. But I don't know,
There's your Trevor Bauer 140 million versus 150 million dollar argument. Now you just knocked it down to 130 if you incur the risk in there. So there it became 20. And if he goes to the Blue Jays,
I
they
got him a
probably
show on SNY because you know what, my guy's gonna buy this network too.
we'll probably
Hey
be on
Trevor, you want your own
SNY.
show?
We'll
140
probably
and you can have your own show. Okay,
we'll probably be on SNY
get your
soon.
get your hottie agent on there. Trevor Bauer show, pre and post game. There you go.
Wait, is there a halftime show for baseball? There is
There is
now.
now.
All right, I guess we could wrap it up there, dog. What do you think? I think
I
that
think
was.
so. I got to go walk the Diamond Dog.
Oh yeah, it's about
She's
that
had a
time.
very rough day today. Let me tell you, we had all sorts of rain. It was like tornado watch, whatever. So she was shivering the whole routine. She was not digging it. Just when she's fine, the Amazon truck shows up. She's all ticked off again. So it's been a very long, rough day.
It
For
was a
the
crazy
Diamond
day.
Dog.
There were these crazy like microbursts that we were
Yeah,
getting over here.
yeah, it was spooky. So yeah, she needs some love, some belly rubs.
Yeah, that's 'cause it's a Monday. Monday Night Live on Diamond Diehards, where we did the catchers post Thanksgiving. I gotta drop some of this post Thanksgiving weight, dog. It's just
I hear you, brother.
yeah, it's getting
I
bad.
don't want to look at the August shows versus now. I don't want to do the side by side.
I
Not
know.
good.
Yeah.
What I get for my 50th birthday? I got fat. That's what I got for my 50th birthday.
Yeah. Fat dog.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fat
Are
dog.
there sponsors on the show? Yes. Yes, Frank Joseph. We do have sponsors on the show now.
He
There
should
you go.
know. He is them.
So
Okay.
one.
So and with that, why don't we reiterate that FMS Graphics, dog, I should let you do the read, wants to remind you that it's the perfect time to order holiday cards. Why not take a few minutes and visit them at fmsgraphics.com? Ordering is easy and you receive your order within a few days. fmsgraphics.com is the place to visit for all your printing and promotional product needs. And if you're
Can I do it
catching
while I'm
this,
hiding from COVID?
yes, you can.
There you go.
You
Trevor Bauer's in.
you sure can. You could even make Trevor Bauer cards and send them out to people. So if
Bauer,
you're and
Trevor
if
Bauer wearing the Mets. Nice.
and if you're checking this out after the holidays, then you could use fmsgraphics.com for any kind of promotional need. So it's not just a holiday thing. It's all year round. Whenever you need, they are there for you. Quick turnaround times and everything, ease of use, all of that stuff. It's great. It's great stuff. And yes, they are our first official Diamond Diehards sponsor. All of the follows, you now can watch us if you have been. Some of you have been watching us on Twitch TV. Diamond Diehards there. The Twitter/Periscope at Diamond Diehards. It's been streaming live there. It's on YouTube, youtube.com/ blah, 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 1,000 letters. I think we're not allowed to change that until we get more subscribers. So please go follow the links and find our YouTube page and subscribe because that'll help us a lot. And that'll,
Help
you
us
know,
help you.
yeah, and if we can grow, we could do more stuff that's really awesome like we've been doing so far. And a special thanks once again to Jerry Milani, who's helping formulate a lot of this stuff behind the scenes. Follow the dog on Twitter at Jeff Healy 8. That's the number 8. You can follow me, Joe Rizzo, at Rear Naked Choke, all one word. And if you want to check out my nice archive of MMA podcasts, it's RNC Radio. You could just follow that on Twitter and check it out on iTunes. We also want you to do what's called an Uncle Paul. This is the first time I think Uncle Paul has not chimed in. We might have just snuck this one by him, dog.
He was watching.
Oh, he was on there? I didn't see.
He was watching. He was popped in there.
Oh, good. I didn't see. I saw Schmitty. I see Frank. We saw Lou Monaco. Where did you see Uncle Paul? I didn't see him.
Uncle Paul's on the page.
Oh, okay. He's there. All right. Hi, Uncle Paul again. Janice Murphy checking in. So pulling an Uncle Paul is the live stream is on, and you can't catch the whole thing. You catch bits, pieces, whatever. You got to watch it for a little bit, but then the reruns of Matlock are coming on, so you want to watch that, and you don't want to miss that with Aunt Teresa. So, you pop off the live stream, and then you go to your phone after the show gets uploaded, and then you download it on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify, and you listen to it on your power walk or on the treadmill or when you're hitting the heavy bag or walking the Diamond Dog. That's how you do it there. So we're Diamond Diehards over there. Check us out. Also, a quick hello to the BC alumni community. Nice little state championship win for the BC Crusaders the other day. We were happy with that. And I think that's it. I think we could wrap it up there. We will. I don't know, dog. We're gonna try to jump on again with the cancellation now of all youth and high school sports for the rest of the year. Maybe we'll go a second show this week. And
once the Mets get the first big fish. Actually, I know we got big thing. Actually, we got Wednesday. We've got the non-tenders, right? So that might also really open stuff up. We can start talking Bryant and all that.
That could. Yeah. I think he's gonna get tendered, but you never know.
I think so too.
One never knows.
Be crazy not to.
One never knows, does one?
One never knows.
Okay, so I think that's gonna do it. I don't know. I don't think I missed anything there. We got our sponsors in. We got the live stream in. We got the hello to the BC alumni. We covered a lot of bases here, and we did it all.
We covered about an hour 15 or so, and nobody signed anybody really.
Yeah.
I feel we kind of hit it pretty hard.
Oh, Frank notes that you could also listen to the podcast while driving. That is a good one. I've done that one many a time. Yes, many a time. I re-listen. That is, it
Even
is.
Dad's jumping in that. Dad with the late night listen.
Oh, you gotta love it. I'm such a podcast junkie though. Like I listen to hours over again. I listen to all different kinds of podcasts. Joe Rogan though, that's like the one I've been on for the longest. But
the 3 hours always scares me.
It's what? It's like you don't have to listen intently. Like you listen, you pop in. Like sometimes it gets a little more interesting, and sometimes you're like, I could not pay attention, and whatever. Yeah. In spurts.
He is a great listen, though.
Yeah, it is. It's good stuff. Yep. He was.
Shout out to Joe.
He was doing it back in the day too, when I was doing it on RNC Radio. All right.
Remember him on Fear Factor.
That's right. All right, so that's gonna do it. We are going to wrap it up. The Monday Night Live. We're gonna call it the Monday Night Live Hot Stove Catchers Edition. For the dog, Jeff Healy. This is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.